Imagine a world where art was trapped in stiff, formal traditions, where figures lacked life and emotion, and the divine seemed distant and untouchable. That was the world of the medieval period. But then a shift occurred. A spark ignited across Europe. Artists and thinkers looked to ancient civilizations and declared, human experience matters. This new philosophy, known as humanism, not only changed the way people saw the world, but fundamentally transformed art itself. The early Renaissance was born, an era where the human spirit took center stage, and art began to celebrate the beauty, intellect, and emotions of humanity. Let's explore how this humanist revolution shaped the masterpieces of the early Renaissance and laid the foundation for the world of art we know today. The philosophy of humanism emerged in the 14th century, inspired by the rediscovery of Greco-Roman texts. Scholars like Petrarch and Boccaccio championed the study of the classical world, encouraging people to see life not just through the lens of religion, but also through the richness of human experience. This intellectual awakening filtered into art, where painters and sculptors embraced subjects that celebrated the individual, the natural world, and human emotion. Artists began to ask, what does it mean to be human? And their work started answering that question in profound ways. In the medieval period, art served primarily to glorify God and instruct the faithful. Figures were rigid, symbolic, and otherworldly. But with humanism's rise, artists infused their work with the dignity and dynamism of real people. The revival of Greco-Roman ideals provided a roadmap for this transformation. Think of the sculptures of ancient Greece, full of movement, proportion, and anatomical precision. Early Renaissance artists like Donatello revived these qualities in works such as his bronze David, a sculpture that captures the grace and confidence of a young hero. One defining feature of early Renaissance art is the emphasis on realism. Artists studied anatomy, perspective, and the play of light and shadow to make their works lifelike. This focus on realism reflected humanism's belief in the value of the material world and human observation. Masaccio's frescoes in the Brancacci Chapel provide a striking example. In his tribute money, figures are solid, three-dimensional, and cast shadows that anchor them in space. These details convey a world that feels tangible and alive, where human stories unfold with weight and consequence. But humanism didn't just shape the technique of art, it influenced the subject matter too. Artists explored mythological themes alongside biblical ones, reflecting the broader intellectual interests of their time. Botticelli's The Birth of Venus draws directly from Greco-Roman mythology, depicting the goddess of love emerging from the sea. Venus embodies ideal beauty, but there's something more. Her gaze is introspective, her form delicate yet powerful. This blend of classical mythology with humanist ideals elevated not just the divine, but also the human experience. Perhaps one of the most profound impacts of humanism was the representation of emotion. For the first time in centuries, art began to capture the inner lives of its subjects. Faces showed fear, joy, contemplation, and sorrow. Consider Giotto's Lamentation, where mourners grieve the dead Christ with expressions of raw, human sorrow. These are not stylized gestures, they are deeply felt emotions that resonate across time. Humanism insisted that our feelings are valid, worthy of artistic exploration, and essential to understanding the human condition. Another hallmark of humanism was the portrayal of the individual. Portraiture flourished during the early Renaissance as artists and patrons celebrated personal identity and achievement. Jan van Eyck's Arnolfini portrait captures a merchant and his wife in meticulous detail, from the folds of their clothing to the glint of light in their eyes. These portraits did more than document appearances. They honored the uniqueness of each person, an idea rooted deeply in humanist thought. Humanism also fostered a spirit of inquiry and innovation. Artists became scientists and engineers, pushing the boundaries of their craft. Leonardo da Vinci is the epitome of this Renaissance ideal, a painter, anatomist, and inventor who saw no division between art and science. His Vitruvian Man encapsulates the harmony between the human body and the universe, a perfect marriage of beauty, proportion, and intellect. This spirit of curiosity and exploration drove the early Renaissance forward, making art not just a reflection of the world, but a tool for understanding it. The early Renaissance didn't just stay in Italy. Its ideas spread across Europe. In the Netherlands, artists like Rogier van der Weyden brought a humanist focus to religious themes, emphasizing realistic detail and emotional depth. His painting The Deposition shows figures collapsing in grief, their bodies twisted in pain. The realism and pathos in these works made sacred stories feel deeply human and immediate, bridging the divine and the earthly. As humanism flourished, it laid the groundwork for the High Renaissance and beyond. The seeds planted by early Renaissance artists grew into the grand visions of Michelangelo, Raphael, and Titian. The celebration of human potential, the respect for classical ideals, and the pursuit of realism all continued to shape Western art. Even today, when we admire a portrait, a landscape, or a scene bursting with life, we are witnessing the legacy of the early Renaissance, and its humanist ideals. The dawn of the early Renaissance was more than just an artistic revolution. It was a celebration of humanity itself. By embracing the ideals of humanism, artists unlocked new ways of seeing and expressing the world. They taught us that beauty lies in both the divine and the human, that our emotions matter, and that our quest for knowledge is a noble pursuit. This period reminds us that art at its core is about connection, to each other, to our past, and to the timeless question, what does it mean to be human? As you explore Renaissance art, consider how these ideals still shape the way we create, express, and understand the world today.